everyone, as promised, we are getting started with some Fishy Business self-help videos. These will be coming on Monday in place of the grind that used to be on Tuesday. We will have one grind video for the month, but we want to do things that will help you better keeping an aquarium, learning how to do things, and we're going to start this video with Ryan and an introductory to what do you do when you get your first plant for aquatic plants, and we're going to do this in 3 steps. So we're going to have a part 1, part 2, and part 3, which hopefully we will cover all the basics of keeping live plants in an aquarium. So check it out. Ryan's great at this.
Hey guys, this is Ryan, the plant guy here at Fishy. We're going to start a little, so I just bought a Plant 101 type series, and we'll start it out. Alright, so the first 2 questions me and a lot of other people that are here are going to ask you is your lighting and your substrate. Now, it's not that you have to go out and buy a bunch of AIs like I'm running here. You don't have to have the high-tech, go fast, nice lights like this right away. But the second question is going to be, what do you have for substrate? You do not have to have your nice planted substrate, like the Protobio, like the Elos, like in here the Aquasoilum from Seachem Aqua Vitro, sand, gravel, all of that will work. It's just a matter of how much do you have. Because if you only have a 1/2 inch, your roots and stuff that are going to be holding your plants down aren't going to be able to do that. They're not going to be able to do their job. So then you're going to have my issue that I have to fix later today. The plants are going to be floating. So with that, it's what do the plants need to grow? They're going to need what all basic living things need. Your carbon. They're going to need your nitrogen, your potassium, and your phosphate. Those are kind of the freshwater's big 3. Unlike saltwater where it's the calcium, alkalinity, and magnesium. Then you get into trace elements that aren't as big of a deal. And with that, you don't have to worry about dosing those until you have an abundance of plants. Really, a lot of the time, just feeding a good quality food and doing your water changes will replace 90% of those nutrients. And we can kind of get into those later, and we will. But with that, depending on what you go into, you're going to get, much like when you started out your tank, your starter fish. We have starter plants here. And we'll touch on a few of those and give you some options on them. So the first plant that 90% of us here are going to recommend, one of our favorites, is an epiphyte, Urannubias. Tons of different types. Here in particular we have the Cophifolia. Nice leaf structure. It's different. You can see the striations and the different kind of colors of green that you get. The cool part about this is you can put it pretty much anywhere. It is a rhizome plant, meaning it doesn't really like to be buried too much. And what you can do is like glue the roots to driftwood, to rocks, and eventually the little fibers and hairs on the roots will grab into that. It's a nice fill-in plant that you can put, like I said, anywhere. And the best part about this, it requires relatively no light. So you just bought that Aquarium 10-gallon kit that has the little LEDs on it. It'll work out flawlessly for this. And like I said a moment ago, you don't have to worry about fertilizing these at all. And they're a slower grower, so don't expect them to take over your tank either. So they're nice, they're controlled, they're not going to overrun and overwhelm you. So one of my personal favorites, although Chase hates it, is your Cryptocorn one Deadeye. It's going to be a nice little bushy plant that, yet again, another slow grower, another low light plant. And these are cool because, much like your Urannubias and any other plant, you can get them in your reds, your greens, your bronze. They come in different colors. There's even a pink version of this that is gorgeous. And with this, it is a root feeder. You can see how they're planted. The roots are definitely going to be in your substrate, whether that be the sand or gravel or the soil. Everything else is going to be above. On these, we're going to be looking at a root tab. That is where these will benefit from. Okay, so with the root tabs, they're just concentrated forms of fertilizer that you're going to insert, well, into the substrate. You can find them in like pill form, or you can find them in the compacted bricks like Seachem does. And you're just going to use your tweezers, insert them close to the roots for things like your cryptocoryns or your other root feeders, especially if you have like a nuvice that's sending roots, or your swords. With this too, next to it, you can see the Kabamba. It's another low light plant, but on this, it actually grows relatively quick. So if you want something that'll fill out the tank, this is where you'll start getting into those stem plants. Kabamba is definitely a cool little leaf structure. It's different, and it's one of the easier, it is the easiest of the fine leaves type. This will definitely, we'll kind of lead into this later, your fertilizers. Definitely like your Flourish Excel and your Flourish just kind of all in one. So speaking of the fertilizers, starting out, the basic one is going to be the root tabs. And like I said, that's going to be for your crypts and your heavy root feeders when you start getting into like swords and things like that. Excellent little tool to have. You don't need many of them. They'll last you a good little bit of time. But like I said, all living organisms need carbon. Your Flourish Excel, it'll provide that. It's not liquid CO2. There is a difference. And that will help kind of act as an algicide as well. Now with that, you go into your NPK, your nitrogen, potassium, and phosphate, your big three. You can get into that individually. We're not going to touch on that. But what we will touch on is your Flourisher all-in-one. That has everything you need to get this going and get where we need to go. You don't need a lot of it, and you want to try to dose a little bit every day to try to keep those levels stable. Stability is key. If you do not have that stability, you're gonna have the algae issues. Next on the list is gonna be a trace element, because they're gonna be the first ones to go should we not be doing our water changes, and we're gonna try to let the plants do as much work as we can. Something like trace, to where it does have all of those. And the best part is, if we are just starting out, this will last you a long time. Now with this is just a Seachem line. You can go through like Protobio. They have their BioVert Plus, their BioVert Ultimate, and their Carbon. Same thing, a little more concentrated, but it's pretty much, what do you prefer? Okay, so the last thing I want to point out is one of my favorite products here for if we are starting a new tank and we're not going to be removing plastic plants type thing, is the Terra Zero. It's a powdered substrate that you would mix into the bottom third of your substrate. Then you'd finish up filling up where you want your substrate. And you don't have to keep adding it like you would root tabs. This will last you 3 to 6 months on it. And the really cool thing about this is you don't have to disrupt your substrate by putting in the root tabs. I like carboning plants. It's kind of hard to insert root tabs through them. So this prevents it. It lets them do their thing. One of my favorite products for the planted systems. So check in next week. We're gonna start part 2 on this. We'll get into kind of more the nitty-gritty with substrates, your lighting, and how to figure out dosing for fertilizers, things like that. And we'll showcase some harder to keep plants and colorful plants, things like that.
Okay, so that was part 1. Let us know what kind of videos you'd like to see: saltwater, freshwater, general practicing of an aquarium, what you'd like to know that you don't know. That's what this forum is for, and since we haven't tried a regular weekly self-help video selection in quite some time, we really want to make this good and better than the ones we've done in the past. So anything that interests you, please put it on the list, write it in the comments below, and we'll try to see if we can get it made for you.